Okay, so I wanted to start today with a couple of announcements. Officially, the announcement for the Holiday Design Challenge is now up. And I think it is a very fun challenge. The task is to design a busy holiday landscape or a busy holiday environment. The theme is a busy, cluttered fantasy town during the holiday season. All the town's people are walking around in their snowy little town, busy shopping for gifts or decorating their houses. Sorry, I'm really out of it. The twist is that it's not a town of human people from our reality, but very similar to Dr. Seuss's Whoville. It's a town of small creature-type beings. They could be a town of people, animal people, or a gnome people. They could be a town of frogs with mushroom houses and firefly decorated trees, or a town of birds fluttering around between the branches of a tree from tree house to tree shop. It could be a town of grass houses, or a town of houses made from old bottles and cans. It could be a mountain town with snow-capped houses etched into the rocks of a cave village with glowing stalagmites and stalactites decorated as Christmas trees, with their dwarf or troll population hustling about their holiday lives. The key is to make sure you have the unusual environment and inhabitant twist in your design. So it has to have that twist. If it's not, if it doesn't work and if it doesn't reflect that you have some creative force behind the kind of humanoids or creatures that you designed, they could be they don't have to be humanoid. They just have to be sentient little creatures. They could be weird little, let's look at Nino Kuni guide, dude. The little guide. Shit, now it's gonna give me a game guide. It's the little, nah, damn it. Kuni. Doesn't Kuni mean asshole in French, or chicken? In Persian. But this little dude right here, it could be a town of these little people. It doesn't have to be like a specific type of people or something that we've seen before in TV. It could be a whole new, like sentient bottle caps or bugs, like Bug's Life, or little vehicles like cars. You know how they took that creative liberty and just made sentient cars. So push your creativity as far as possible with the type of people that it is, as well as the type of town where they live. So I want to see massive creativity in regards to how you present this landscape, this environment. So if you are doing an underground scene, I want you to look into what is actually going on in a cave, and what kind of rock formations you see in certain kinds of caves, and work with that to add in the holiday charm. So I have a couple of pieces that I really feel like are very inspirational. I posted the announcement. I haven't posted the resource pack. I will post it on Istebrak.com after this session in the community section, and you'll find it right here. This is our old challenge. I should get rid of that. I'm sorry. But yeah, these are some of the resources that I've given you guys as references and inspiration. I don't want you to copy. This is from Troll Hunter. Really go watch it if you haven't watched it yet. It's just wonderful. I love the way they design the troll city or the troll market, but very similar to this. If it's an underground scene, I gave another scene from Hellboy. This is that mysterious animal creature, whatever, magical market there. And then we have some other busy towns. And notice how it's a low camera to show how big and busy the town is. This is a high camera, and what this does is it shows it is very cozy. Kind of like a little toy Christmas town. I like this. This is from Guild Wars 2. I like the tilted angle of the horizon. Some more little mushrooms, some streams if you wanted to make it a town of people who use boats to get everywhere. So something very Venetian or something like that. Tiny little boats that everyone uses, or if it's frozen, or if it's not just yet frozen and there's slight snow everywhere. So remember, it's supposed to be a cold environment. And basically imagine it as if you've been hired to design the next Christmas special for children. But everyone's done the whole green and red Christmas, and we want to bring in something completely unique, something completely new, something that we've never seen before, and that's the point of designing this environment. So please make sure you read through the brief that I give you guys, as well as looking through the references and using them. So this is what I mean by a house etched into the side of a mountain or a hill like this. I should probably bring in some pictures from Hobbiton as well. So that's, me and my Lord of the Rings. And I'm also going to be adding videos of busy towns that we've seen in movies like Elf, or movies like that one Christmas movie, Fred Claus. It's really funny. That's another really good example of like a busy Christmassy town of elves, but it's not going to be elves. It's not going to be the traditional thing that we see all the time. It's going to be a little bit more universal, not specifically Christian or anything like that, just festive and seasonal. We try to take the whole angel at the top of the tree and replacing it with a star type deal. No offense to any of my Christian viewers, but we just want to make it very universal, very unique, very fun, something that you'd see in like the way you see all those funny little people from Nightmare Before Christmas. Those are cute little people, Christmas people, but of course not that traditionally Christmas. So as I said in the description here, you could be decorating where did I stop talking? Yeah, it could be a town of grass houses or a town of houses made of old bottles and cans. So it could be like small people like from Arrietty. So I'm going to give myself a little... Sorry, I'm very, very slow today. It could be a mountain town with snow-capped houses etched into the rocks. The key is to make sure... I don't know where did I write it in here? They use like little fireflies to decorate their trees and stuff, so you don't have to make it Christmas lights. It could be the cutest little twist to things that makes it all happen. It could just be floating little embers. It could be a whole town of fire people like we see in, that fire elemental village from Adventure Time. So Adventure Time, fireplace. Oh, sorry, Adventure Time. Fire people. So you see all these cute little people. It could be a people of fire, and everyone glows and they have their own take on what the holiday festivities look like. It doesn't even have to be the holidays. It could be like an equivalent of the holidays. So I really want you guys to push the variety and the uniqueness. This is a very, very big deal. So I'm going to try to get all of these. I've made little points here. I'm going to try to get all of these videos of scenes from movies. I'm going to post them in the resource pack, videos of scenes from movies that represent a really nice idea of what I'm looking for in the busy town. It is tough to draw all of this, and there are ways to kind of render all those tiny little people without actually having to go in and render for hours and hours. There are ways to represent really quickly a basic form structure. It could be a house of snow people and snow mountains, or yetis, or abominable snowmans, or whatever that is. But please make sure the variety and the uniqueness is there. It's a unique take that you've never seen anywhere else. If I see like gnomes dressed up in holiday garb with green and red, I think I'm not gonna just count that as really or sorry, like Whoville people. Gnomes are fine, but Whoville, if I just see a duplicate of Whoville, I'm just gonna not look at it. Yeah, so I'm gonna let you guys get into that. I'll upload the resource pack here. You'll find it here on Istebrak.com. As for Portrait Studio, the update is coming out tonight. Portrait Studio is done. The overhaul update is now complete, and I wanted to have it. I do have a demo right here on my desktop of how it's going to look, but I wanted to just save that for the tutorial that I'm going to post up very, very soon using Portrait Studio. I'm going to use it to draw something for you guys and show you how to use it, and out of that kind of just reveal what it's all about. With that, I'm going to release my sketching brushes, but that's a whole other deal that I have to put together. But the price, I was very, very worried about the price being too expensive, seeing as how many people were attracted to the sale only because they could afford it, and the fact that it's just going to go back up to $75 or $80, I wasn't comfortable with that. So because I love you guys so much, I took $20 off the price. It's now a $60 program, and I did that because Abu and I were talking, and we said, well, a game costs $60, And we said that because we put so much into it and there's all this accessibility and we've been working on it for a solid 2.5 years already, let's just make it the price of a game so that if the student is out to buy, you know, the next game and they want to get really good at art and they're going to be spending all their time on the game, let's just give them something to compete with that game, something that'll help their art and help them forward. So it's a personal choice at this point that we've made it less expensive than a game. I mean, as expensive as a game, but less expensive than it was before. Also, it's not as expensive as before. So a lot of people who felt that it was too expensive, I hope this helps you out. I might take it back up. I'm not really sure. I'm very just careful right now to kind of ensure that everyone feels like the price is fair. For those who bought it at full price, thank you so much for your support. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for buying it so early on. I hope that this update proves worth the wait. I know it is, but I hope we get your approval. And that's it. That's all I really wanted to mention today. And one last little thing. I know I'm getting on a little bit long here, but we have a new goal. I have a new goal for Patreon, and it's going to be a goal of 1,000 patrons. I know that's very, 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 what's the word? It's a very big goal. And I just want to see that if it's possible. We're going to give it a couple years. It doesn't have to be overnight. But there is a $1 tier that you guys can do. And I think if enough of us do it, this goal might be achievable. So for those who want to give back to the community or feel like, they want to be a part of the Patreon or part of the group of patrons behind the success of the community so far, it's opened up a lot of my time for these challenges, for putting together and writing up the challenges. And it's opened my time a lot for just making sure that I don't miss critique hours. I don't know for those who have been here for a long time, but I used to miss them a lot. And that's because I had to prioritize work over the streams. And now I don't have to do that anymore. It also frees my time health-wise. I don't have to work so hard. So my health is a little bit more keeping up with all that's required of me for these streams. But if you guys want to, it's available there. You do not have to be a patron to get critiques. These 2 pieces that I chose for today are not there. I don't even know if they're patrons. I have no idea of knowing. So there's no requirement for you to be a patron in order to be a part of the community. The community is free for everyone. It's a free resource that I will keep free forever. I don't censor my knowledge based on who pays me more. I do not do that. I do run private tutoring for those who want to book with me, but those are paying for the one-on-one aspect of my tutoring and teaching. It's not a if you pay more, you get more knowledge. I give the same amount of effort and I lasso all the same. I sit there and make sure the lasso is perfect, whether or not I'm being paid. So remember, you do not have to be a patron to get critiques. Everyone's asking me that. No, just join the community. I'll link it at the end of the class, and you can join through there. All right, I'm very, very sorry if I'm slurring words, if I'm very tired. I will try my best to just not get lost in my sentences or anything like that. Okay, let's get started. So this piece here has wonderful, wonderful colors, but it is very messy. And messy sometimes isn't just about small brushes and drawing too much detail or too much texture. Messy doesn't always have to be about texture. Write that back to me. What does that mean? When we have too much texture, basically you have a little bit of it too, though. You do have a little bit of overly textured areas here. So you got too many of these little guys here just jumping around, these little textures. Everything is translucent. You can't really tell where the fabric starts. You kind of just showed a general representation of the fabric with some flying textures, and that's about it. You didn't actually try to layer the fabric, show us real structures of the fabric, real tailoring or something we can that's familiar, like a dress or something like that. You just kind of threw a bunch of texture in. But that's not what I'm talking about, but this is a big plague that you guys deal with, this overly textured, kind of like oddly represented detail like this. If a couple less brush strokes and just the same amount of value range, and you could have pulled off a really believable fold. But that's not what I'm talking about. Aside from all this excessive texture, messy can also be bad staging. Messy can also be using black values for the background and black values for the foreground. Messy means that you're just throwing shit around everywhere. And that's when you start getting a messy painting as well. So if we fix this and we still feel like it's messy, I'll go in and take care of all of those excessive little brush strokes you have to represent everything. There's no one section in here that you haven't represented with a messy brush stroke, and do not call it painterly. You don't get to get away with that. You don't get to say, oh, I was trying it for a painterly way. That's not what painterly is. Painterly is you still understand what folds are, but you just decided not to render them or polish where you should have polished. You kind of did 5 brush strokes for where there should have been 20, but they were still the right values and it was still a believable structure. So that's not painterly. Don't give me that. I don't want to hear that. It's not painterly. It's messy. Painterly, believe it or not, is a very difficult thing to do, and it is not messy. It is intentional. It is deliberate. Okay, so make sure you guys are paying attention. I might get back into, as soon as I release my next brush set, I usually like doing this so that students kind of just get a little bit more into it. I think now everyone has it, my brush sets, but when I release my next one, which is going to be about sketching brushes that I've never really given out. They came down when the books started, when I stopped selling the books. They used to be attached to my books, and I've reviewed them a little bit, but as soon as those come back up, I'm going to start encouraging you guys to write notes and upload notes so that whoever gets the best notes gets a free brush set. But now, because everybody's pretty much has my brush sets now, I don't really have to do that anymore. They're not enticing anymore. It's no longer good rewards. I have to find a different reward. So, what do I mean by organizing the rules of depth? Well, she's in a state of silhouette, so we gotta give her a silhouette. If it hurts to do this, good. You deserve it. You deserve it for not paying attention to your depth. All right, so we threw the background into a lighter value. Automatically, just out of this, we got negative space. Look at this sexy amount of breathing room. That's some sexy breathing room. Over here, we need something very similar. So I'm just going to just kind of figure this out. Give her some breathing room. That fabric veil thing, it's just going on too long. It's just a veil. So I'm going to just give her that sleeve. And then throw this off into the distance. Okay, so I'm gonna just illuminate that. Look at that breathing room. Nice. That is some sexy ass breathing room. Okay, so what am I doing here? Can anyone describe what I just did? Can anyone just give me a quick description of what this means while I select these little dudes? Excuse me. Sorry, YouTubers. I know you guys are getting a lot of HD sick noises. I mean, feel free to use them for games or something. You have my permission to use my noises because they're so high def. Oh boo, I can hear stuff in your room. Okay. So I'm just selecting this. Break the shapes and distinguish the foreground and the background. Good job, Faz. Yep, that's exactly what it is. You shared too many values between too many units of depth that you started to, make it more messy. And that's what messy can mean. So if someone who isn't really versed in the rules of depth tells you, hey, this looks a bit messy, they mean that. They mean that, they can't tell where this starts and where that ends. And that's because you didn't allow us to see it. So if she's the foreground and background is all of that illumination, then these little birds have to be a degree less dark than her. They cannot be as dark as her. Okay, so we've taken care of that. Then we got to do some framing. So the lower half of the canvas, the corners are all a little bit more framed. And just this alone has really helped out. But you see how much crap you had just flying around? You didn't need all of that. A couple of feathers here and there for like bird feathers, that's fine. But she was the main course. She's the main course. She's not going to be competing with these stupid, it took you 2 seconds to make speckles everywhere. They don't mean nothing. So just throw them off, okay? And I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'm also going to, damn, I should probably have saved the lasso. Fuck me. Normal. Sorry, I'm doing this just to get the lasso back. I know, this is really freaky. It's probably like, what the fuck, Shining kind of scene. With the bloody door. But just give me a sec. I'm just trying to get the lasso back so I don't... What the fuck is going on? So I saved it here. Alright, just so I can if I need it again, I'll have it here. So I'm just bringing this down. Next up would be just deciding, once this is all done and it's a silhouette, see, I did need it. Select the Embers. We got to darken her a little bit as well. So we're going to grab a dark blue, and we're going to get into probably multiply, not darken. And we're just going to throw it on top of her. You can use a type of, color that is like a cheating light, like a camera light. And just, throw that in there to reveal her face a little bit, but not before you've decided and have designated the amount of darkness everywhere else on her, because she's in the silhouette. So you got to take care of the silhouette first. Okay, so this is kind of behind. It would be more like this one that throws the light in this way. So now I'm trying to find all those areas where you did have light, and you just represented it as a string. This is like a whole section of illumination here. So these fabrics are actually getting this glow on them. So grab one of this glow and just throw a full width, like a full width of that glow on the fabric to reveal it. Don't just throw strings around. What the hell are those strings doing? Is it a string? No, so don't paint it like with a string, with a thin brush like that, because you're representing things wrong. But she has to be dark enough for all of this to really have an impact. She's got a bunch of glowing little fairy cards all around her. These over here are a little bit more eclipsed because we're on the shadowed side of them. Even though they are glowing, they don't get to glow as much as the ones that are beneath her. What's it called? Beneath her silhouette. So this on get to be a little bit darker, but these guys right here, so let me see if I can select them. I really want to do a good job with the lasso tool, so bear with me. I'll promise it'll be fast. These guys get to glow a little bit more because they're in a shadow, so we get more an outward glow. These guys got their little value, but it's not as strong a value as the ones that are directly underneath her shadow. So what I'm going to do is grab that and just let them glow a little bit. Kind of have one section more fiery. And if they're moving, if there's this massive movement, this circular movement this way that's thrown her fabric around, you might want to include some kind of blur, motion blur or something like that. So I'm going to try to do that. If it doesn't work out, we'll just cancel that and do some smudging. But I'm going to try to use some motion blur. Motion blur. Just something like that to help. 2, 1, 2. All right. I'm going to copy that, go back to before I did the motion blur, and then delete at any areas that don't need the motion blur. Not the whole piece needs the motion blur, just the tail of it. So wherever it's moving toward, The side, that doesn't get blurred, but the side that gets trailed behind, that gets a bit of motion blur. Alright, so that's a little bit more movement. And then we have just a quick before and after to show how much more organized everything feels. And I don't know what the crop was for, but that was just a way too intense. Okay. Then I'm going to desaturate that excessive purple everywhere on the lower parts here, so that the yellow can feel a little bit more strong. Just the lower areas, anywhere where we move away. And these little birds need to be a little bit darker. Then we get to the face. So this is basic staging and depth. Then we get to the face, which is a little bit hidden, and it's probably like the most important part of this whole painting. So I'm just going to distort her face a little bit just to show it off a little bit more. See, it was too hidden before. And I'm just going to get into revealing some of the fabric that gets the subsurface scattering on it. So just over here, if this fails, if the dodge tool ends up being too strong, I can go back and delete at the layer. So you see here, I'm just letting it go crazy. And that's because I'm going to go back and delete at the layer to get the edges proper. So here I'm just looking for the subsurface scattering, and that happens in the shadows. Then I'm going to get the brush and just try to create some of this purple peeking through the veil of her dress. So I'm going to make it a little bit more saturated. See, it's not about her face anymore, because the way you set this up, you've forfeited her face for the success of the gesture, for the success of the environment. So a little bit more reflection and translucency this way. And I gotta zoom out and make sure that the light really is behaving like that. Oh shit, it's okay, I'll get a new layer. So we go back, I selected the layer before I started dodge tool, and then we go back, and now we gotta delete. Where is she and where is her cast shadow? So this is the shape of her head. Where her hair starts is where it gets too dense for that reflection to show through. So if I see any areas that need darkening, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so we're continuing that all the way around. I'm throwing some of this translucency everywhere. I'm going to grab some of this purplish white and let it just travel through here. I'm going to grab some of that, and anywhere where her hair starts, that's where we have a sharp edge for the cast shadow. So she is a cast shadow. When you're in a state of silhouette, you are the cast shadow. You see how the fabric folds twice here? The first layer is darker than the layer underneath it. The layer underneath it is a lot brighter because it's one layer less of fabric. And then when you get to the hems, that's when the fabric thickens out, because the tailor thickens the hem so it doesn't open. They kind of fold it a number of times. Okay, so this is what I'm doing here. I'm showing off wherever we have some of the light traveling through. And you see all this shit in the back? It's just so distracting, and I'm going to have to take care of that. So yes, after we cleared out the depth rules, we ended up realizing you did have way too much texture visible everywhere. Alright, I'm going to darken. I'm going to try to get this, so this is what I meant by getting a new layer if dodge tool goes over the edge. And some fabric has tiny little microfiber on it that, it's not microfiber, but it's just tiny little microscopic little hairy bits that catch the light, so we actually end up getting a rim light. And this is going to be like a purplish white rim light because the light of the background is so strong it sits on the fabric a little hard. Just on like these highest most areas. And it'll all come together once you just decide on the first fundamental you're clearing up. So this fire in the background, this like energy, this chakra or whatever it is she's using, doesn't have to be this intense. It can be a little bit more clear. You got all these like rogue textures and stamp brushes you used, and you just overdid it a great deal. All you need are some feathers and some embers coming off the cards. That's it. You don't need all this extra stuff. And it's because you did such a messy job with the feathers and the embers that you felt like you needed more everywhere else. So this reflection weakens, actually. This light traveling through her dress weakens the further it gets away from the light, and gets stronger the closer it gets. But I got to make sure that this is a nice, soft looking fabric. You got all these little beads here that don't really match what's going on with the fabric, which is, you represented it as very wispy and very light. After that, just like I did before, I'm making sure her silhouette, her outline is strong. This is really, really detailed stuff. This is stuff that you probably wouldn't be worried about if you're still doing your form studies. This is really like more of an advanced thing to dress your characters with, and I think you bit more than you could chew. So just the fact that you didn't recognize it was a silhouette means that you had a lot of trouble. You have a lot of trouble knowing where the light source is. And, you know, that's always a bad thing. It's always been a bad thing, not knowing where your light source is. I'm going to throw a little bit of extra light behind her. And then I'm going to get into layering some fabrics. This breathing room is really good. Now that we have this, we can darken as we need to. And if there are little pieces here that have some subsurface scattering or light in them, we need to take care of that. But this brightness is needed to make the cast shadow of the silhouette feel a little bit more valid. A silhouette is a very intense lighting situation, and you don't try it until you've kind of figured out that whole deal with front facing, top down, three-quarter view light, all of that business. It's not good to throw that onto your plate too soon. Okay, so to do with the rest of these little pieces here, which are really, really important, now we have to start responding to the secondary. We established the primary, and we have to start responding to the secondary, which is these glowing cards. So I just made some really basic kind of like folds, but these folds are not the fold. They're part of the fold. They are the front part of each fold. They're not necessarily the full part of the fold. They're just the part that faces forward at the cards. And I'm just throwing really, really general ones in a new layer. I'm trying to figure out where her sleeve is. Maybe she's got the interior of her sleeve catching some of that light. But even her hands are very, very difficult to figure out. Feels like you got a picture of the hands. I'm really not sure. So the face needs to be reworked completely. I think you need way more room for her face. I think the face that I think I might just grab something out of Portia's studio and just smack it on. But the face is very, very lacking. Over here, there are some folds on the interior. Nothing is better than showing two kinds of light source hitting the same object. It's so pretty to look at. So this little veil here has some of the background light peeking through it, and some of the secondary light on it, which is really, really fun to see. So this is the kind of stuff, these are the kinds of colors, this is the kind of crazy shit I want to see for your holiday challenges. Just lots and lots of lights, lots of stuff clashing, barely any long shadows. And if you do have a long shadow, it's just beautiful. It's just exactly what, quenches our thirst for them, and you place them in the right spots. Always ask yourself what time of day it is. All that stuff is necessary. Before I do any of that, I'm going to clean up some more backgrounds. I'm going to go in and clean all these little pieces of gold that I added just now. I'm going to soften the edge of this fabric here to show that it's a little bit more susceptible to the wind. A fabric that's constantly moving is just always blurred. And I feel like we can even sneak in a little bit more dodge tool in here, just to show where all that beautiful Subsurface scattering is happening. Subsurface scattering happens on objects that are translucent. You know what I would love to see on her face is a more of like a possessed look. That would be very, very nice to see. And so for these lights, they don't get this strong. So you see how right over here, I have my eraser ready. Right over here, the lights are the same strength as down here. That's not possible for secondaries. They're too weak. They're like just a bunch of candles. So we need to weaken them the further they get. Oops. Just like that, and that's going to be even more pretty. And then really looks like she's got this underwater effect going on. And I'm so tempted to bring in some more, kind of some of that reflection, or that peek through the translucency of the fabric. Just a little bit more, almost like a Virgin Mary type of setup here, this holy symmetry. She's got this little crown thing going on, which actually needs to be dark because it's a solid. A solid just means something that's opaque, doesn't let the light through it, so it creates a cast shadow. I'm going to try to pull that off with my sketching brush here. Right. It'd be really cool because she's in a state of like a silhouette. It'd be cool to see like a kind of that kind of crown here, so you can give us some detail at the top. In fact, I am going to add it. Now that I did it, I can't fight it off. It's so pretty. Okay. Just some basic shapes. I don't know if this is a pre-existing character and I'm like redesigning them. I don't care, honestly. It's just for the sake of the lesson. Yeah, Virgin Mary type deal. And a couple little pieces. See how it breaks the silhouette a little bit and gives us something interesting to look at while looking at her head. And you could make it so that on the side of each, oops, so you can make it on the side of each little piece here. Actually, I'm just going to use polygonal lasso. We got a little bit of the background value because these pieces are on a tilt and they're not fully silhouetted. And then we can make the we can make the cast shadow of her head cast on top like that. Zoom out, grab the background color, and just throw them on. It's really, really nice, reflective. Even if it was gold, it would be in a silhouette. It wouldn't just suddenly start working. Then next, what I'm going to do is dim all of this secondary light source and reveal only some of the cards. The cards shouldn't be glowing through and through. They should have some areas that are weak to them. And this is where you can bring in some kind of texture to erase with. So I'm going to erase with this with the cloud brush that I have. And I'm just going to erase in some select areas on the cards. And see what that did? That's the detail you're looking for. But you did it by overcompensating everywhere else. They actually look like they're on fire. So limiting the strength of your secondary glow, or any glow of any light source, just darkening the environment around it is going to make it look even more bright. I know that seems like the opposite of what to do. Hey, if I want things bright, I'm just going to go ham and just going to bring in bright everywhere. That should be like, foolproof. It's not foolproof. It's not as foolproof as you think. When you darken the environment and you have one little speck of light, that's when you have maximum contrast. So before, way too much, considering she's in a silhouette. And after, just really select areas, get that glow. And it still counts as glow for the fabrics nearby and the folds. It still counts. They're still emitting light, except this time it's a little bit more detailed. And they look like they're burning up. And that movement. Okay, and then the cards behind her, I really want them to be darker. I feel like they wouldn't be that strong, and it's going to add to her silhouette like they come along with her. Oops. So yeah, I know these paint overs are getting a little bit long, but I did make a commitment to kind of takes my time with the paint overs of some paintings that I find, so that we can really look at the big impact instead of running through one fundamental to fix. I want to kind of do that big impact, heavy duty kind of paint over change to show off more fundamentals. All right, so we're going to start off. I'm not sure how I'm going to figure this part out because it's two silhouettes and it's a glowing orb, so it's going to be tough. But I'm going to start off by darkening the part that is closest to. This is too dark, so I'm going to use a darken layer, and I'm going to get the darkest blue, and that's what I'm going to darken with. Oh, okay, so now I figured it out. All right, so we're going to make the edges glow, and we're going to make some insides ember up like that. Okay, sweet. See, this is what happens to me in the middle of a paint over. I don't know what I'm doing until I do the first fundamental and cross that off my list, and then everything else just makes sense. So I'm actually choosing a red for the second pieces here, kind of like a reddish purple. All right, and these guys, because they're kind of in between both, I'm just going to layer both colors that I used. So I'm going to start off by deleting the outsides so that we can have these really, really strong edges. I'm actually going to save this lasso as well. Delete. Okay. So I'm going to start off with that. And then I'm going to get that same cloud brush I used earlier. Before I do that, let me just see if I can pull this off and just show some rips of the cards through. So the parts that really do glow. You can't have the cards glowing all around because then you're going to have a bunch of floating squares. You have details on these cards, so you got to be able to show them. So I'm going to lower down that. My eraser is on a cloud brush. Sorry about my table, it's really loud. It's always creaking. And I'm just deleting some of these little pieces here. Wow, everything's just coming together. One fundamental, cross it off your list and just give it a second to marinate. You know, these guys here, they're not important. They're not more important than what's going on with the character. And if you're too afraid to darken certain areas, then, you know, you gotta just bite the bullet. If this right here, this little thingy that she has on her dress, you gotta darken that down. And there's nothing illuminating it other than these little pieces of gold here. And these gold pieces are not going to be illuminating every part. They're just going to be illuminating the lower parts of this little head piece. So you cross one fundamental, which means this sash or this headpiece here was supposed to be dark. It reveals the next step. It's like one clue. You find clue number one, and then all the other clues are revealed one by one as you get each clue. And each clue is a fundamental that you cross off. As for the face, I really just want to sneak in 1 second. I'm actually going to just mess around with this. Okay, so this is my demo version. Let's see if we can do this. Can we do this, guys? Let's see. Let me get our chat. I don't know where our chat went to. Okay, so... Oh, I don't have the one where all of these are disabled. So, indicator off. Oh, I told you to turn them off for me. Indicator off. Indicator off. Okay, so she is... I don't know if the neck rigs are available in my copy here, but I am going to do a little thing like that. And I forgot which... Oh, okay. I'm going to do a little bit of a sneaky light. Just like there, as if there is a light coming off, but it's just right on her face. And I'm going to select this. So just give me a second. I know it's cheating, but I'm going to select it and use it on her face just to show you how nice it would be to kind of change up her face a little bit. All right. If you do this, you're photo bashing. I'm just letting you know. So this is considered photo manipulation at this point when you're using a painting. I should have lightened the background, mother of God. Occlusion. I still haven't gotten used to this. Background color. Backdrop color. Alright, there we go. Alright, so try this again. I'm going to actually give it the color of the skin. Alright, I'm just estimating where the head should be. There we go. And I'm going to move this around so that it kind of allows her veil to come in. So if you don't know how to shade stuff and you have a copy, I'm not sure why you're not using yours. But this is exactly what this program is for these reasons here. Alright, oops. Okay, so I probably should have fixed it so that it's matching the crown, but just, it's okay. It's okay. Alright, so I'm throwing in the veil. Some of the veil kind of went over her face. Some of the crown is on her face like that. She seems like she's like a magic card or something like that. Right, some of the crown is just like that. She's kind of like turning her head forward. I feel like the head might be a bit small. Let me flip it horizontally. No. Okay, and then I'm going to change the color to match the skin tone value you chose. Then I'm going to bring in some of that universal white light that's all around everywhere. She is in a silhouette, but I'm going to sneak in some stuff and I'll show you what I mean. She's still in a silhouette. She's still dark. I'm going to use that blue on all of the shadows. And then I'm going to darken her face completely. But there is a sneaky little camera light that we have everywhere that's allowing some of her face to come through. Okay, so I might have it just there. And I'm gonna just start messing around with some stuff. So first and foremost, because I'm Istebrak, I like to give glowy eyes to stuff, okay? So I'm just gonna give her some glowy eyes. And that's that kind of blind face I was talking about. And you don't, of course, this, ideally, you are, you know, painting in the face, but this is a good example of how we want, like, you know, angles to be thought about, light source to be thought about, the angle of the head downward, all of that stuff. I'm going to darken that, darken around the head as it gets closer. Okay. Now it's starting to look like a Magic the Gathering card. And that was it. That's really all that they have on us, is that they've got really great referencing. Alright, so almost done, I promise. You see how you can still sneak in a primary kind of light source? It's still a state of silhouette. It's still a painting. That is, it's still a silhouette. There's still light behind her. But in this case, what we did was we snuck in an extra little light, which you are allowed to do in art. You are invited. This is such low contrast, resolution. You are invited to do this. You're invited to try this. Because we need some extra little light. Even photographers would sneak in an extra little light to reveal some stuff. And now I'm going to choose whatever that light is. If it's a blue light, I'm just going to make a blue light just to show you. Whatever that light was that was on the camera or was nearby, that's the light I bring in and bring on the face, sorry. Okay. That's the value I use here. You can't just make it a gray. The light source gives off its color as well as its magnitude. And then I'm just gonna dodge tool around the eyes. I'm also going to do the exact same thing to her skin tone. You chose a very peachy skin tone, which you might be saying is the, in fact, right over here, I can use one of the light source dudes. Bounce light, image object light 2 is on. I forget how to move it around. Abu, how do I move it around? I haven't memorized these controls yet. Well, this one here, I would put, once he comes over here, I would put down there to show me how the cards would illuminate on her face. But I can sneak it in. I know how to do it without using it. But yeah, I'm going to make her chest a little bit more purple and her chest a little bit more dark. And the chest, I feel like you're forcing the cleavage. I really don't think the cleavage would be visible from here, so I'm just going to darken that. I'm going to cast the shadow of the hair onto the body. I'm also going to kind of align the rest of this. Everything's coming together nicely, and nothing is possible unless you get the first clue. Okay? Clue number 1. What is clue number 1? That is our first, question that we ask. Where is the light source coming from? We answer that question, then clue number 2. I kind of want to make her face, well, yeah, I have to make her face more a part of her light environment. So I got to sneak that down and just make it more blue. Do you see that? That's a necessity. But I kind of want to bring in an even more different color. But this is the bounce light and where it would be of these little guys. A little bit on the nose. I'm just doing this really roughly so I can get into the next painting. Okay. Give us cleavage or give us hell. This is why I don't look at the comment section while I'm trying to think. You guys throw me off. Give us cleavage or give us hell. Okay, so this, you see how the fabric gets dark on the outside? Oops, I was using the wrong value for that. Alright, so I'm going to zoom out. I feel like I can burn some more. Darken these cards even more. Dim them out even more. I don't want it to be about the cards. You see how the cards are demanding the attention now. Fucking attention whores. So I'm just going to darken them a little bit more. They're still serving their purpose. Trust me. Chill out. It's okay. Breathe. They're still serving their purpose. Whenever there's like a narrative thing that breaks the narrative you designated for the character, and for some reason you don't make it super high contrast, the student panics. They're just like, no, fuck this. I planned for really, really bright cards and I'm going to keep it. There's some stuff in your original design description that you just can't do in a painting. You just can't do it. You can't just go around making up rules. So once we darken these, it becomes all about her again. Alright, so I added a little bit more of that like Virgin Mary glow behind her. She seems like she's like a Magic the Gathering card, and it's like a card for like Second Life or something. Like she's like a what are they called? Those ladies, the ladies of fate, the sisters of fate. She's like one of the sisters of fate. Remember the sisters of fate from God of War? Remember the big booby lady? That was beautiful. They did so well. Alright, so I'm going to take questions now. If you have any questions about any of the choices I made here, feel free to ask them now. I'm going to just keep figuring this out for you. But yeah, sorry about my demo version. My demo version is limited. It was just for taking a look at some stuff. But the version coming out tonight, the update's coming out tonight. See that? How I had to cast the shadow of her dress on? So I couldn't just I couldn't just keep letting it go down. I feel like her forehead should have a little bit more size to it, so I'm just going to push up her her crown just a little bit. I like how even though she turned her head, her crown was in place. I think that's nice. As for the birds, the thing is when you bring in like tertiary characters like that, anything like third or anything not important, number one, they're exactly the same size, busy. That's what I mean by busy as well. No depth used at all. And then number two, they're the same size as her head. They're almost the same size as her whole bust. So we could just crop like this and it would be those three characters. You can make a crop. That's what this kind of crop is made for. Three characters that are, now it looks like a Kanye West video. Three things of the same size beside each other. But you can't do that with a vertical canvas where suddenly everything is just falling down this way and these guys are just hogging it. Also, it's still looking too much like a cross. So you can use holy symmetry for, you know, this character here or whatever it's called, holy symmetry, like that golden ratio for saints. But you just can't mess around like that with the rules. So you gotta just lower this guy over here. Tell him, hey bro, you've been demoted. You're no longer as important as the focal point. Wow, what a surprise. You gotta get out of here. No way, the focal point is the largest and highest contrast of the whole painting. No way. If only I had known. Alright, so we cheated today. We used a snapshot of Portrait Studio, but still, you can paint this as well. There's no bullshit here. This is paintable. Alright, so I'm just gonna... The Sisters of Fate, do you mean Norn? Yes, the fatty one. The big titty mama one. I would love to see some yellow glow on her face. I have added it, yeah. Don't add too much. She's very far away from these guys. Don't just go crazy. She's very far away. She doesn't need that much. She has her glowing eyes to take care of that. I really don't know what I'm doing with the bird. Here, let me just do some random shit. Alright, there's bird number one. I don't know why this guy's sitting. I don't know why he gets to have a seat while this guy doesn't have a seat. I don't know why he's allowed. I don't think that's fair. So I'm gonna just let that guy fly around as well. Alright, any other questions? How much should I leave out of the original design for the sake of the painting? What do you mean? How much you should leave out of the original design? I think her head should be facing forward, absolutely. I don't think her head should be off to the side. Is this your painting, Nika? Oh, wait, no, you're asking about the previous point I made. Out of the original design for the sake of it. So if you have like a glowing staff, and the staff is the kind of staff that, okay, remember in Lord of the Rings when Gandalf had to, you know, illuminate the underground, in Khazad-dûm when they were underground, entering Moria, there was nothing, there was no light after that creepy creature, tentacle monster trapped them in after the gate. They had no light. So ideally the light of the staff should have been massive because they could see the pillars of the main hall. But in movies, I mean, you can't have just a glowing floodlight there. They had to dim it and then make up the rest. They illuminate the hall anyway, but make the glowing staff less bright. That's the point. That's what I'm trying to say. The original narrative isn't allowed to take over the staging. It isn't allowed to break the rules. If Gandalf's staff glowed as much as it should have been for us to see the hallway or the Great Hall, it would have been too bright for cinema. It would have just been a white scene all the way until the orcs showed up. Or until the Balrog showed up. Alright? Let them all sit or none sit. Exactly. So I'm going to darken the rest over here. Now we're losing some texture. I'm going to get one of my canvas setter brushes here. Some random shit and just throw it in. And see this crap here? This is crap. This is trash. This like stamp brush, please. Teach yourself the vocabulary of a professional. This is crap right here. This is trash-o, okay? You get rid of this. This is too much texture. Yes, the brush gives you some wonderful stuff, but an artist who lets the brush do all the work is just a pussy. So just don't let your brush just do all of that for you, all right? So yeah, that's garbage. Okay, whatever. A brush can make texture, but don't let it take over the painting. You're in charge of fixing this stuff. You're in charge of going in and telling it, hey, shut up. I already designated a focal point. You don't get to take charge. This is all that's left of that brush I just used. I'm just trying to show some like surface disturbance or something. Erasing away wherever I don't want it to touch the face. We are missing a raven, so that's going to disrupt the before and after. I'm not sure how I'm going to bring that raven in. And then we got the embers, which is a funny little cool trick I'll show you guys for the embers. It's a wonderful little Photoshop tool. Make sure that when you're making embers, it's not all of them are equally spaced. I used to make that mistake when I was younger. Just made them all like equally spaced, like 2 meters apart. See this shit? I'm still doing this shit. Okay. And then a couple pieces here. And then a couple there. Alright. I really fight my perfectionism a great deal. That's why I make everything equally spaced. Then I grab one of these little dudes. God damn it, Photoshop. And I just drop that in. And then I double click on the layer and click outer glow. The outer glow should be a color that, oh, I really love the blue. I like it when the flame is a color and the glow is a different color. I love messing around with that. But the storyline here says that it's got to be a... You see that? And then you can make it all kinds of color. You can make it red. You can make it blue. I think that's beautiful. But it's up to you. I'm just going to make it the ember glow coming off of these guys. And then I'm just going to... And this right here, all these settings, you can copy paste them right now off my, video. You can make it default. So every time you need a glowing ember, you can just go right into double click into layer effect. And then I'm just using dodge tool on some of these to give them some glow. I don't want them to be over the top. I don't want them to be in charge of the painting. Remember, I already designated a focal point. Okay, so this part here of the fabric is a little bit bugging me. I feel like this whole section of the fabric here needs to be purple. And part of that translucency. Holy jeez, oh my god. Wrong layer. There we go, that's exactly what I wanted. And then I give that some, always looking at the navigator. It looks like shit here, but when you look at the navigator, that's when it makes sense. Sorry, I'll take your questions in a second. I'm just getting on to my next point. And then I'll be done. Of course, the before and after will look different, but I just want to show you guys how worth it is to just make it a silhouette first. Chill out. Yeah, okay, you lost your focal point, but your focal point wasn't even a focal point. The whole painting was a focal point. That's like a painting becomes a hemorrhoid. It's no longer a painting if the whole thing is just detail. It becomes very, very problematic for the success of your painting if the whole thing is a focal point. And that's what happens when you don't let your brushes just chill out. Put them away. Sideline them, or whatever the term is. Okay. So this little glowy sash here is a little too strong. If she has some kind of glowy ribbon, so let me see if I can pull this off. If she has a glowy ribbon to her dress, so she's got like these glowy bits to her dress, like that, like the ribbon hem, then, oh crap, in the wrong layer, then you can just, there. I can do it again, whatever. You can keep them as glows, but what I would do is get their color, so I'm going to make them a gold hem, and then I'm going to get the purple of the light environment, but a dark purple, and I'm just going to darken them wherever they're not getting any highlight on them, and then lighten them wherever they are facing. This one here has to face something though. Do you see what I'm going to do here? I'm going to just highlight, highlight because they're facing up. Highlight this whole piece. And then I'm going to delete. So I'm trying to stay true to this artist's choice here, this artist's design choice. Delete any part of the ribbon that doesn't face the light. It's just too strong. And that's why I'm keeping all these units here. And so now we do have, you know, this is the front part of her dress. And yeah, we have to make this little wavy bit match the rest of the fabric. That's easy. Just put one more little gold glow along here somewhere. But we don't have it, you know, as just this random texture. It's not just a random texture anymore. I think this would be purple, actually. Yep. Cancel. And then I'll be done, I promise. Okay, so you'll see the before and after. Quite a lot of changes, but I tried to stay true to their design choice. I didn't try to undermine it with my own choices of beauty or whatever else haters decide to talk about. That just doesn't shit. So let's look at the questions. Isn't her head a bit too big for her body? But then again, I can't really tell what's going on. So her hands are open. I feel like you're missing a lot by not showing like some of the hands out here. So if you showed like, you know, this is the card you use when you want to stop damage. So this card makes you take 17 less damage because it's called the second life card. I don't know. Some hire a nerd to come up with the titles, but I feel like it would be much better to have her hand up here somewhere, kind of saying, "No, stop the damage," and then another hand over here, kind of just doing its girly little thing with its fingers. And oh god, I don't know what I'm drawing. I admit, hands are not my strong point. I've never said that I'm a professional at hands. Okay, so you start off with the palm, and then you give it the thumb. And then the hand is getting really big. And my voice is gone. Okay, yeah, this hand is massive. But you see how the color I chose was blue? And that's because the light environment is blue. Okay, so that's where I would love to see her hands. Just doing, because he's right, the person before this, I don't know where everything is. I don't know what's going on. I don't know, this hand is right here hidden in all of this. And what's this hand doing? Nothing. So if you put it up here where we could have some silhouette and she's saying no. And then we have the other hand right over here. Card game freestyle. What cloud brush do you use? Did you create it or purchase it elsewhere? I think it's like a brush that I bought out of like a free set. I mean, a brush that I found out of a free set a long time ago. I'm talking like when I was first year university, so when I was like 20. I found this cloud brush, and I've just always kept it in my sets. If there are many lights in an object, the form get lost. Yeah, it can be. So that's why you make one strong and two weak. Isn't her head a bit too big? If the president can say pussy, Istebrak can. Could put the raven in the foreground looking at the witch or oracle or whatever it is. No. I think you need to have all the stages, have all the units of the design part of the stage. So to put them foreground is to just make them, it's too audience-y, it's too foreground. And then you're going to throw off that whole asymmetry, and you're going to throw off kind of the layout. Artists who let the brush do all the work are pussy. The body seems disproportionate to the head. Honestly, I don't know where the legs are and where the arms are. I need to zoom out all the way. I've decided to make the head this big because I feel like the head needs to be this big for this canvas. So if you have to enlarge the hands, by all means do it. The hands here seem fine. Why is the hair and dress flowing in different directions? You don't ask questions like that. You don't ask why the wind does what it does. A wind can throw everything in every direction. It's an unseen force. So you can just say that you got the universal wind and then you got the movement of the cards all around her. Maybe she just landed. Maybe she just, just appeared out of nowhere. That's not the kind of question you ask. Don't worry yourself with questions like that. Where's the wind coming from? As long as everything points in a general direction. She seems to be having like an inner wind, like Miyazaki style. So she seems to be glowing in and out of like a wind glowing out of her. Mostly worry yourself with the kind of lighting we're talking about, okay? Just destroy the birds. Are the crows too light, even if they aren't focal points? I make them this light because if I bring in detail, I'm going to go darker anyway. So I start them off this light. I just really want to throw in the other crow, so we're not like messing around too much. I'm just going to copy paste this dude. Select Embers. Just make one higher and much smaller. Or make this guy the bigger one and the one on the back. Yeah, I'm not sure. You'd have to make all these choices yourself. I can't be here all day deciding them. Okay, and I believe I'm done. Let's take a look at the before and after. I'm not sure about the hands if I want to keep them now that I added that crow, but you might want to. Actually, never mind. I need to copy this. All right. Before, you had this weird little crop on the sides. Everything was too dark. The face was just very symbolic, 3/4 view in a setting where you had this, all of this just, you know, saying, hey, it's just all about her, but hey, she's going to turn her face away from you. Why? All right, then we set up, I don't know where we left off in this piece here, but this is when we separated the background. We started bringing in reflections from the gold, made the crown feel a little bit more towards a focal point. We darkened the cards back there. We brought in the model. We gave her some unique new colors, not usual to the canvas. We brightened the background to reassert the focal point and the silhouette, and we got rid of the sitting guy. We brought in the textures, and then before, after. Okay, lots of changes, but I really think that these changes were necessary. I'm actually going to desaturate now that I saw the before. I want to desaturate the cards a little bit wherever they're not glowing. And I think the hands are too busy. All right. So I hope this was a good lesson for you. Flatten. I wish I had more time to really show you what to do. Let's see. Can the background be less complicated? Like the background be more simple? Yeah, you can make it a really, really general background value. It doesn't have to be like a forest scene with every single little branch painted. It can be a very general description. The illusion of the texture, not the actual texture, whereas this artist used the actual texture. I got rid of the second crow because he was sitting. It didn't make sense. The professional says he can't draw hands coming soon. I have a real hard time working out colors. I can get things working in black and white. What are some good resources to help? Trying to start with color. Yeah. Okay. Why did you hear the second crow? Do before and after, please. That's it, I guess. Questions. Now for this piece, we have an underwater scene, and light source is not the. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just one big general thing. All right. Boom. Just this. This is all you need. All right. You don't need all these extra little pieces here. All this redness here, because the light source isn't allowing all of that red through. If she does have like this really, really strong red that is a subsurface scattering red, then you need to show that this is subsurface scattering by actually putting light where there should be a shadow. That means the light of the universe behind her, which is this light over here, one has to be bright enough. Okay, so a touch hot brighter. And 2, this is no longer the universal light source. The universal light source has now become this green. So this entire lower part, you got like some really crazy colors here. You set yourself up for a lot of trouble. So this green over here, which I'm just going to make like an aqua, is going to cancel out all of that red. There's no situation in the world where red and green get along like this in translucent layers over each other. It just doesn't work like that. So this gooey green, this like science-y, oogly, Scooby-Doo monster green is the light source. This is the main light source situation then. And because the ground, I mean, she's not as bright as the sun right in the painting up there, means that we're going to have some green in the water around her, but it's going to be more of a blue-green, not the green of the ghost. So down here, all of the greeny greenness, all these colors get dimmed. And up there, we're going to have more of that yellowy, bright blue. So now we have 2 worlds, right? The world of her light environment created by her, and the one behind her. Then we have another silhouette. So you guys really love the silhouettes, man. And I have to give the people what they want. So because the light behind her is visible in the painting, this means that she has to be darker than the world around her. She has to be a little bit darker. All right. So I gotta just really quickly make the background a little bit more light. I'm not gonna darken her. She doesn't need to be darkened. She doesn't need that in her life right now. She already has this light coming out of her face. She just needs a brighter light environment around her to show that she's in a state of a silhouette. Okay, nearly done, I promise. It was a long-ass class. It's just fun. Once I start painting, I just kind of, you know, and as I explain away, kind of lose track of time. Right, so we're bringing in that shining red. You know, I only recently watched The Shining for the first time, and I can't believe that man dies. What the fuck? He was like the only good thing. He was like a Master Roshi, you know, with his pervy posters. And then he just dies? What the fuck? If you haven't seen it, I blame you only. Okay. It was so sad. It's just like he's so cool. Like he's, you know, he knows about all that stuff. This looks cool too, eh? It looks like a manga kind of poster. So I'm just saving my lasso here. This is a nice red I chose. And I am going to brighten the background using the light source color. So lighten. To see how nice it is when you actually get your silhouette going. Jeez. That's some good shit. So what's the opposite here? Let's just go for a more of a purple to darken all these guys. Oops, darken. And once we darken them, how am I going to do this? Once we darken, we can start bringing in or deleting away at whatever her little feeding tube is revealing. So that's taken care of. Everything is nice and dark. I'm actually going to darken it one more time. And then I'm going to delete away. So the outmost it goes, the darker it gets because it's more clips that way. And then we deselect. And just really like carefully and radially delete. And then after that, I'm going to just carry this color all the way forth. The color of her hair or tentacles, which I've decided to be purple, which I think you should rework. I'm gonna just kind of just give off that green on it. And then that gets its own glow. Just like so. And after taking care of all of this, I want the main point to be her. So I'm still going to darken the background, but it still has all of this stuff intact. All of this stuff around it. This light, this eclipse, this subsurface scattering for the tentacles. Beautiful piece. It reminds me of like Dragon Ball Z or like Ghost in the Shell. I just love what's happening here. I just want to know what's going on. This piece doesn't get as much subsurface scattering. And then this piece, I'm just going to make it purple. It stays purple, but only on the dark sides. The light sides get all that green. Okay. I think you should rethink these guys here, these little lights. I think they are taking too much away from the focal point. They really don't need all of that illumination. And you need her cast shadow. A bit of a stronger cast shadow around here. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom out. I'm going to test if I even fixed any colors. I don't think I did. But at least now things are a little bit more harmonious. I'm going to darken the background just a little bit. I don't like light at the top, so I just frame. See how I'm framing. We still have the background light in there indicated. This is generally brighter than this half. And I'm going to darken this lower half here. So soft brush is really the go-to brush for making light happen, making light patterns and all of this. So before, yeah, he did not have harmonious colors. Yeah, there were big color changes. That red, what is there? What is revealing that red? Unless it's glowing too, but its values are not that glowy, and that would be a really bad design choice to make those glow as well as her breathing apparatus. So now you have more of an underwater feeling. You add some bubbles, add some stuff here and there, and it feels a lot better. Yeah, there was a massive difference. Okay, so now we have more green glowing. We have eclipsing for the tentacles against the light of the top. We darkened the top, but we did start light, so we have a general lightness there. And now it really feels underwater. It reminds me of Ponyo colors. Yes, soft brush is good for light. Use it. Use it to show the texture of the light. Texture of the light is a real thing. It means the like the leftover texture of where there isn't light takes the negative space of light, which is where light doesn't reach, is still soft as the light tapers. That's why we erase with soft brush. It's not just a color wash. No, it's not just a color wash. What we did today was balancing values, lowering contrast, working in layers, deciding how colors look underwater, subsurface scattering, and considering texture. It's not just a wash. That's not what it was. We also used one final layer of light, and we illuminated this with dodge tool. So soft brush layer and dodge tool combined to make this underwater muted glow. It's not just a color wash. It's a lot more than that. All right, a lot of stuff today. So if you want to be a part of the community, you don't have to be a patron or anything, as I said before. But I wrote community coach came up. But to join and to get your stuff critiqued, this is where I chose today's stuff. Just out of the miscellaneous work for community critique wall here. If you want your stuff critiqued, just post it up. And that's what I choose from. Stuff is moderated. There are a number of rules to post with. They're very strict rules, but they're really for the benefit of the community, to make sure that it doesn't get flooded out or go crazy. To recap on the announcements, I have announced the winter holiday challenge, so please join that. Make sure that if you want to join it, please read it. Make sure that you are following the rules. I will upload the resource pack by tonight at istebrak.com in the community tab right here. Portrait Studio's sale price is no longer available. It is now at full price. It might go up a little bit higher than that by the end of the day once I talk it over with my team. And if you want to be a patron, you can support me on Patreon. We're going for 1,000 patrons. I know it's, again, really, really ambitious. But it'll be some time before we actually hit it. And it doesn't have to be 1,000 patrons of $20, of course not. But like, just whatever the lowest tier is, or the second lowest tier, whatever you feel like giving back to the community. Just go over to Patreon and become a patron. And I think that's it for today. My brush sets are coming up. My book is drafted. A lot of stuff, so many questions about my books. I took them down. I don't have them up anymore. Any links that you currently have up are not working. And that's because I felt like it was time for me to draft one final master book of everything that I know, a list of all the things to remember for your paintings, everything that I talk about in my classes but in written form. And that takes a while to compile. I had 2 books. One was more of a general art book, which is very, very dated, and one was a figure drawing for the growing artist, which wasn't as dated, but I wanted to combine it all as one master book. So just be patient. I promise I'll give it back up. The way I get these questions, it's like so panicked. It's like, I have a link, but it doesn't work, and I don't know what to do, and I'm like out of breath, and it just calmed down. I promise the book will go back up sometime before December or after December, once I have time to get in on draft it. And to be honest, sitting is very difficult. My back is still really, really problematic. So sitting and writing for longer periods of time is hard. So I'm taking it like piece by piece. Does the Portrait Studio update automatically? Yes, it does. It's going to automatically update tonight. Once you open it again, it'll just start updating. No, you cannot do the Santa side. So no Santas. No Santas. I'm gonna go into this announcement that I made. I'm going to make it even more detailed. No Santas, no traditional Christmas. No, I'm just going to go ahead and say no traditional Christmas symbols at all. You've been hired by a studio that's out to make a Christmas movie, but it's not the traditional Christmas that we're seeing. So it's a Christmas for people who have never met humans. So frog people that live underground in mushrooms and in mud huts and grass huts. They don't know what it is, but they see that these humans have these lights everywhere around December and holiday time, and so they decided to do it too. But they don't have all of that Christmassy Christian Santa stuff. That's why I'm not really calling it like a Christian Christmas thing. It's just a holiday challenge. And anywhere where I am saying Christmas, please remember I don't mean it in the Christian sense. I know it's called Christmas, but it's just the holidays, the festivities, the harvest season, all of that combined together. So no Santas at all. If the whole piece is a focal point, it's a hemorrhoid. Yes, exactly. But with little creatures instead of a red hat with a fat ass guy. So no Santa hats. No Santa hats. This is the design challenge. This is the challenge. How is it a challenge if you're just going to put together a Santa? A Santa is a character design that's already been made. So you're just rehashing the same old stupid Santa drawing. I personally never understood what the fuck Santa is. If you guys go back in time, he's like this harvest creature that people sacrifice their children to back in pagan times. It's really creepy, the origin of Santa. Read into it. Coca-Cola did not invent Santa Claus. So yeah, I don't want to see any Santas, alright? It's a character design that's been reused. Make something new using the lights and the colors and the atmosphere and the weather, the bad weather, and which is also good weather, and the darkness, the twilight time. All of that is just the best thing to paint with color-wise. This has to be color. So again, I'm just going to include all of these here. All right, to make sure this challenge is as clear as possible. All right, I think that's, can we be more inspired by pagan traditions? Yeah, sure. You can. You guys, remember, these questions are really good. So if you guys can go and ask me these questions here on the assignment, other people will be able to see it. Here, the question will be lost. So yeah, go here and ask those questions. All your questions, ask them here. I'll answer them as I have time. Hopefully others can also answer them for you, but the more that you ask here, the easier everyone will be able to find the information. Thank you everyone for joining. I really cannot wait to see how you guys draft this. I might do an after hours tonight after watching some Shrek and try my hand at some of these thumbnails. Remember, you need thumbnails first, so start with your thumbnails and move into something else. Thank you everyone for joining today. To be a part of the community, go to Istebrak.com, click on the little Google Plus icon, and join the community. Read the rules, upload according to the rules, and have fun everyone with your challenge submissions. Bye guys.